Alrighty, welcome everybody to today's webinar. I'm Trevor. I'm going to be your presenter, and we're discussing specifically sales tax implications for an internet business. But more specifically, this is a little more geared to those of you guys who sell on eBay. We're going to be talking about your responsibility and whether it is even your responsibility to charge sales tax. Because I get a lot of eBay sellers that are kind of like, it may not be like their full-time business, but they just do a little on the side and they wonder to themselves, do I still have to charge sales tax? When do I have to charge sales tax? Does it even apply to me? Is it just for big stores? So we're going to talk about what it is, when it applies, and then how to get it set up on your own eBay account so you can be complying with the law. So you're charging sales tax when you're supposed to. So let me preface our discussion by talking to you guys about this. And I'm just going to ask you guys, if you're an eBay seller, so let's talk about a couple of different situations. And I guess before I even do that, let me preface this by saying I'm certainly not a tax professional. We always advise our clients to speak with someone who is a tax professional in regards to anything related to tax. So I'm going to share with you the things that I know. I know just enough to be dangerous and to, I've done this for long enough to know some of these implications, but I too have my own tax professional I work with. So this isn't supposed to substitute good professional advice from a tax perspective. I just want it to be a good supplement. Okay. All right. So there's my disclaimer. So, as far as sales tax goes, let me give you a couple of situations or scenarios. Let's say you're just a normal person, not running a business on eBay, but you have some stuff from around the house and you want to sell it, so you put it up onto eBay and you put it up for sale and it sells. Under that situation, guys, do you need to charge sales tax? What do you think? There's probably a couple of different answers here, but what do you guys think, just on the surface, based on what you know? Do we charge sales tax or no? It's a little bit of a trick question, honestly, because I don't think I gave you enough information to answer conclusively. There's some specific pieces we got to look at. Number one is, and this is the biggest thing that you guys need to understand in regards to sales tax. The question is where is your buyer from? Because if your buyer resides in the state that you reside, then you need to charge sales tax in most cases. So here I am in Utah, right? And let's say I turn around and I sell a product to somebody who's based in Texas. Do I charge them sales tax? I don't. Never, under any circumstance, am I going to be charging them sales tax. Okay? So what's cool about having an internet business is, of all the states out there and all the people that exist in the United States, the only people I need to be worried about charging sales tax to would be the people who live in Utah, which luckily for me is not that many. 2 or 3 million is compared to the rest of the United States. So I don't charge sales tax that often unless I have the occasional order from somebody who is from Utah, and then I would need to. And that goes for you guys. Like if you live in Texas, if you sold me something and I'm buying from you, but I live in Utah, you don't charge me sales tax. But if I live there in Texas as well and you sold me something, then you better believe by law you should be charging sales tax. Okay? But going back to our initial scenario, if it's just, let's say I am in Utah here as a seller, and let's say you live in Utah as well as a buyer, and I sell something to you, but it's just something from around the house. I don't do a lot of eBay selling. It's something that I've had for a while. It's it's a TV I bought new years ago for $500, and I'm on eBay just trying to get rid of it. I'm selling it for $100. So I'm going to lose money on it, really. I'm not making a profit on this. Under that circumstance, no, I don't need to charge sales tax. It's not a business. Plus, I'm not even making a profit, you know. So under those kind of circumstances, generally speaking, you're not required to charge sales tax. Okay. But if I'm like going and buying things to resell myself, I really should be charging sales tax. Even if I'm just kind of a small time seller, I'm selling some things from out of my house. I'm buying some things at garage sales and listing them for sale. At that point, you guys probably should be charging sales tax. Does that make sense? So yes, Scott, going back to your question, it absolutely depends on the state. Okay, this only matters if we're in the same state. If I'm selling you stuff and you live in a different state than me, then I'm not required to charge you sales tax. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Questions about that so far? Okay. And yes, David, the webinar is going right now. So so that's one implication there. Second thing is, guys, if you charge sales tax, you usually need a sales tax permit. Like I can't just charge sales tax without being licensed to do so from the state. That in most cases that's illegal. Okay, so I really need what's called a state reseller permit, or there's different names for these kind of things. Let me pull up some notes that I can write as we're talking here. Do any of you guys know what I'm talking about with a resale permit? The state number. So let's just make a couple of notes here. So I'm going to say, first of all, yes, charge sales tax if and only if your buyer is from the state where you live. Okay, that's the first big point, right? Second big point, let me zoom in on this so you guys can see this just a little bit better. There we go. That's a little better. Second point then is, do I need some sort of license to do it? Well, yes. You need we'll call it there's different names for it. See, it depends on the state, and that's why I'm waffling just a little bit. In Utah, it might be named something just a little bit different, but a sales tax permit is what it might be called, or a state resell or resale license, something like that. Or sometimes they call it a state tax ID number. Okay. For you guys who have been selling a little bit on eBay, does any of that sound familiar at all? State sales tax permit, resale license. A lot of times we don't emphasize it a whole lot at the very start of the program because, truthfully, because you're not selling in such high volume at the start, right? You're just getting into it. You're probably not selling that often to your state, and so it doesn't apply. But you should, if we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's and doing things right and legally, we should be concerned about getting one of these permits within the first month or so, maybe a couple months of getting things set up, so you can be licensed, and then yes, you can charge sales tax, but like we said, only to people who live in our state or the state that you reside, right? So this will be a little bit different for everybody. If you live in a state that doesn't charge sales tax, well then you're all set. This won't even really apply to you, honestly. Okay, so Nicole just asked a good question. So this assumption is made based on us saying that our buyer is living here in our state, right? But how do we actually know if the buyer is going to be living in our state? When you put something out for sale on eBay, like you don't actually know, right, where the buyer is going to be from until they actually purchase the product. And then at that point, it's too late, right? You're not gonna contact them after that and say, hey, by the way, you owe me an extra 6% or whatever your sales tax rate is. So that's a good question. There's something I'm going to show you guys here in just a second where we can program it into eBay that it automatically will charge a certain sales tax rate if the person is using a, depending on what address the person is using when they buy from you. So I'll show you guys that here in just a sec. Okay, we all on the same page as far as this is concerned? Okay. Let me know if this isn't making sense yet. All right. So let me just make sure I haven't missed any of the implications I want to go over here, or anything that relates to this before I move on. Let me talk. Okay, so let me talk about the sales tax permit for just a second. Because again, I'm not a tax expert, but I can usually kind of give you an idea of how to get one and why else it might make sense that we get one. First of all, like we said, it's the law. So if we're going to charge sales tax, we need one. The question is, where do you get it? And if you live in the United States, you need to. It's something issued through the state. So if it were me, I would go to Utah.gov, which is where I live. And most websites are just like this. Most state websites are just like this. You go to your state's official website, and if you don't know what it is, just Google it. Texas official website, California official website, whatever the case may be. But it's usually, Texas.gov or TX.gov or Oregon.gov or OR.gov. It'll be some sort of an abbreviation or whatever. But you can come on in and find the business section. Usually there'll be a section there all about starting businesses and licensing, permits and stuff. You just have to find where to get information about a resale permit. And sometimes it'll be very obvious and other times it won't be. So a lot of times what I like to do, especially if I'm not familiar with where it is, I look for a contact number somewhere on the page for this division, for like the state business division or whatever, so I can be directed to where I get a form to fill out. And usually it's nothing more than that, guys. It's just a form that you'll fill out, real easy to do. Sometimes there's a fee attached to it, but that depends on your state. Fill it out and you'll have your resale number pretty quickly. So that's how you go about getting it. It shouldn't be too tough to do. The other reason why you might want to have one of these state tax ID numbers is it gives you the ability legally, if you're going to buy something from a wholesaler, it allows you not to have to pay sales tax, right? So let's say, for example, there's like a wholesale company out here in Utah where I want to resell their products. Maybe they'll drop ship for me. But they don't want to have to charge me sales tax, and I don't want to have to pay sales tax because I'm just going to be reselling it anyway. Well, what I would do is I'd get one of these licenses, and they'd probably require it before I get set up with them. Some of you guys who are making connections with wholesale drop shippers and stuff right now can probably attest to that they're requiring, proof that you actually have one of these licenses, and you can offer them that proof, and then you get set up. So I guess I bring this up too because at some point when you are working with wholesalers, you'll want one of these numbers. You'll want to be licensed because they'll probably ask for it. Okay? All right. So let me take you over to another thought before I take you into eBay and show you how to set this up. Let me check your guys' questions first. Let me send something to one of my clients here who had just asked a question. Looks like their webinar's not working for them. Okay. All right. Let's see. Linda, so that was your question. I just answered that. Where do you get your permit? Get it from the state. Vince says, do you have to program it to each item that you list? You don't. You can do kind of a coverall thing, and I'll show you that here in just a second. B, you say, how do you charge it when it's a buy it now? I'll show you that as well. Yeah, so Alan brought up an interesting point. Some states have like various tax rates depending on the county or whatever. And so that's where it gets a little sticky because eBay won't, I don't think eBay does program based on counties. So like you're saying in Washington state, like depending on what county you live on, there's a different state sales tax. Is that what you're saying, Alan? Because I know a lot of states, well, not a lot, but some states are like that. It makes it to where the tax rate is a little more variable. Now, there's a place that I've gone to before that I feel like works pretty well, taxrates.com right here. This usually will give you, I mean, it'll teach you all about tax rates and stuff, but sales tax rates, if I click on this icon here in the middle, I can come down to a state like Utah right here. And then I can find out more information about the tax rates. Okay. So taxrates.com. Also, check with your the same place you're getting your sales tax permit. Check with them; they can give you the right rate. And then for more unique situations like that, Alan, where you've got variable rates, that's when I'm going to have you kind of go over and chat with somebody who knows more than I do. Talk to a sales tax professional there in Washington who would know, because I'm not sure how to handle that. All right. Yeah, Arizona as well, Linda, you're saying? Arizona runs into the same issue. Okay. Yep, that I definitely understand. Okay, so here's another issue that we've got to consider. Some states require tax on shipping and handling, and others don't. So let's say you're selling something for, $59.99, and let's say you're going to charge an additional $9.99 for, this will be for shipping and handling, and that person is in your state and they buy from you. So are they only paying sales tax on the $60? Do you only charge them whatever? Let's say your state sales tax rate is 7%. So do you charge them only 7% on the $60, or do you do 7% on both the 60 and the 10? And that again, that's something that I always recommend you talk to a sales tax person or an accountant about. But there's a little table right here, and I'm going to give you guys this website because this is what I've used in the past. I think it's good. I'm going to send this out to everybody here that's here live with me. Okay, you guys should all get this link. And then for you guys that aren't here live with me, I'm just going to copy this link right here, and I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see it. This one right here. So the short answer to what I just brought up is the fact that it just depends on the state. All the states are a little different with their sales tax code. So it depends on the state. And I know that's kind of a weak answer, but it's true. On this website, it's kind of cool. It'll actually show you what states you need to charge sales tax on the shipping, and then what states you don't. So right here, this is shipping is taxable. The following states may, if you charge for shipping as a part of an order, then it's taxable. It doesn't matter if the shipping charge is part of the price of the item or if it's listed separately. So in these states right here, if I listed that same example I did, I would probably have to be charging sales tax on the shipping, okay? See that right there? Luckily for me, Utah is not listed there. If I come down to the second list, shipping is not taxable if separately stated. Okay, so in Utah, if that were me and it was somebody buying in Utah and I'm from Utah, then I don't have to charge them sales tax on that. Okay, most of you guys are probably offering free shipping anyway. That's built into your price, right? So, sales tax will be built into that. Or I'm sorry, you'll charge sales tax on that, and you don't have the separate charges. But if you do separate it out, that's something that you need to consider. Okay? Questions on that, or does that kind of make sense? Okay. So let me show you guys inside of eBay how to set this up. It's way easy. Okay? This is all you do. You go into your you log into eBay, you go up here to My eBay at the top right. Okay, I'm getting in here, it's loading up, and then I'm going to go to the account section right here. Go into your account tab, and you're going to see all sorts of different options once you get into account. You're going to see all these here on the left. Okay, you've got to get to the site preferences option. You see that where my mouse is? Site preferences. Boy, I bet that's small on your screen. Let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. Site preferences right there. I'm going to click on that. Okay, and this is where we have we've got a lot of options. Site preferences is pretty robust. It's got a lot of different selling options and buying options. But this section right here called payment from buyers, we want to go ahead and select this one right here, use sales tax table. And I'm going to come all the way over here to the right and hit edit. I'm just going to read you this part at the top. It says, use the sales tax table to enter the tax rate you want to charge for each state. Okay, we're only going to have to do it for one. But I think this is true from a tax standpoint. Like, there's a reason why Walmart charges sales tax in every state, because they have what's called nexus in every state. They have a physical location, right? They have physical offices in every state. If my little eBay business here had an office in Utah and then one in California and Texas, and I was all over, I would be charging sales tax in those places as well. But since I'm only based in Utah, that doesn't apply to me as much. It says optionally you can indicate whether you want to charge sales tax on shipping and handling. Okay, and that option is right here. So we just discussed that a minute ago. Depending on your state, you would want to select that or not select that. The information you provide us here will be used to calculate sales tax on the final price, and if you so indicate, on shipping and handling. Okay, so I won't read the rest of that, but that's pretty self-explanatory. So you guys can see right here all the states listed. I could come right down here to Utah, and I could put in a tax rate right here. Now, it's not going to give me a tax rate, so I either need to consult taxrates.com, or I need to consult my tax professional and make sure I put in the right rate here. And then for you guys that have varying rates in your state, that's where it gets a little more sticky. So I guess my advice for you is to probably put in a general, pretty close rate to charge, and then talk to a tax professional and see how they want to see what would make sense for an eBay business for that. So I'll put in 8.25, and for Utah it doesn't have to be shipping and handling, so I don't have to check that. And then I can go ahead and click save here at the bottom, and then I'm all set. So what that did is it made it to where every listing I've got posted right now, if somebody who lives in Utah buys it from me and they put in their information and it's being shipped to Utah, or they live in Utah, they buy from me or whatever, that person then is going to get sales tax added, and it'll be a different line item when they're checking out. They'll see that they get charged sales tax. Okay. So that's it, guys. That's really all you need to do. You don't necessarily, I guess you could, as a matter of just being very transparent. In the past, when I've been a little better about what I've been doing on eBay, in my descriptions, I'll actually say Utah residents, or I'll just say, attention, all Utah residents, you'll be charged an additional 8.25% sales tax or whatever it is at checkout, just so that doesn't blindside people. But it shouldn't blindside anybody, because they're going to see it as an extra line item before they check out. It'll say sales tax. So if they complete the checkout, they will definitely have agreed to pay you sales tax. Now, at that point, guys, you just have to, again, talk to your tax professional. But if I'm charging that sales tax, I need to set it aside and make sure I'm paying that money to the state, right? I don't get to just charge an extra 8.25% and put it in my pocket. That's for sure. I'd get in a lot of trouble for that. You want to just set that money aside and take record of it so that you can file that with the state. And I'm not going to get into the details of how to file. That's going to be state specific, and that would be something for you and your tax person to go over. But what's great about all of this, guys? You're not doing this a lot, right? I mean, the truth is, in your state, now you could live in a more popular state or a more populated state, right? Like California, New York, Florida, Texas, whatever. And you'll have this issue a little bit more often just by the law of larger numbers, right? But in the grand scheme of things, it shouldn't comprise too big of a percentage of your sales, especially at the onset. So if you haven't done any of this before and you've been selling, like don't get worried about it. It's not a big deal. We just want to start now and make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. And again, I've got to put out the disclaimer. This is coming from me. I'm not a certified tax person. I'm just an entrepreneur that has done this for long enough and has worked with my tax person enough to where I know just enough to be dangerous and kind of show you guys the ropes, but all of this should be discussed with somebody who's a professional, okay? I'm a marketing guy, not a tax guy, but I feel like it's worthwhile for you guys to know a little bit more about this kind of stuff. Now, some of you guys have asked, I've got clients from Australia, from New Zealand, South Africa, the UK, Canada, all over the world. And it's like, okay, well, how does tax affect me then? What do I do in my specific country? And that's really where I'm going to have to say, you know what, talk to a tax professional, because we can't direct you for every country. So a lot of my clients are from Canada, and I've got a couple here that are from Canada, and that would be the case. Talk to somebody there in Canada. You can usually get some good advice from somebody locally for sure if you need to. So questions, guys, concerns? Does this kind of make sense how to set this up? I'll give you guys a minute to ask questions before we finish up. I wanted to kind of keep it short and sweet, and then after we turn off the recording, I'm going to share just something real quick with you guys that are here live, and then I'll let you to it. Yeah, let me clarify that. Rick just said when you say set aside the money that you're charging for tax, what do you mean exactly? Well, like how we talked recently about running our numbers monthly, right? That was our last week's discussion. We chatted about running your numbers, seeing what your revenues, expenses are. Well, I would say at the end of the month, you need to look through and see how often or how much sales tax you've charged. Because if you charge, $125 worth of it, what you don't want to do is you don't want to take that money and put it towards another investment or spend it or whatever. You want to make sure that 125 just gets set aside, whether that's physically and you set apart some money physically, or you just have that money in your account and you say to yourself, okay, at least 125 of this needs to be paid to the state. That's what I mean about set it aside. I just don't want it to disappear throughout the year, and then it's like, oh, I owe the state a bunch of money for sales tax, and shoot, I don't even know what I did with it. I think I paid myself too much and forget, you know what I mean? So that's the issue. Any other questions from you guys? I know this tax stuff isn't that fun, but it's stuff we got to talk about for sure. Last week we did a little tax conversation too. Next week we probably won't. So that's reason enough to come again, right? No more tax stuff. These are really the only things that I ever talk about tax-wise is sales tax, and then just kind of keeping your books a little bit. Now, as this relates to the retail strategy, if you're buying product and reselling it on eBay from a retailer that's charging you sales tax, that doesn't really have anything to do with this. This is only when we're selling something. We just pay sales tax to our supplier if they require it and count it as part of our cost of goods sold. Rick just asked, can you pay the state as you collect it? Usually they have certain intervals, so monthly or quarterly. That's something you got to find out with your state, Rick. But you'll write them a check every so often and just make sure you're all caught up. Yep. Okay. Guys, I don't think I'm going to give anything else. I'm going to shut off the recording. For those of you guys who are watching this recorded, thanks for watching. Glad to have you. Make some of these changes if you need to on your account or consult your coach.